And we're live.
So let's look at the nominees that we had. We had 4 of them coming from the governor's office: Suzanne Young, Adam Gresham, Beth Festigi, and John Quinn. So we need to decide if we're going to forward those to the Senate. So would somebody like to start? Who was reporting? Suzanne, would you like to? Okay, Brian?
Yes, Madam Chair, and I did get a very short, which I appreciate, resume. It'll take me about 35 seconds to read it. And I would move that we vote in favor of her confirmation.
Okay. Yeah, she had some really interesting things to say, I think, about how the COVID has has made people work together in a much better way.
Yep.
And the strength of what she saw as the state workforce. I thought that was okay.
Yeah, I would just add, I mean, Suzanne knows government better than most people. She's been in a lot of roles and done
Yeah.
it, and that's really helpful right now.
And under a lot of governors.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm. So I guess we take a roll call on these.
Definitely on the secretary.
Yeah. Let's do it on all of them so that we have that.
Gail, do you feel, I don't know if it's the same form, I imagine, so we'll just.
I'd use the same form.
I don't know if there is a form. Okay.
We could just say like confirmation or something. Well, it
Yeah.
won't have a bill number, right? It just,
No, there won't be a bill number.
okay. Was that moved? Did that just get moved?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Ram, yes, Senator White.
Yes.
Okay, and we voted to advance Suzanne Young for confirmation by the Senate on a vote of 5-0.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. Yeah. Okay, who did Beth?
I did.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Did you have
I
any?
also got a very short bio from her, a paragraph, which is more than enough, but she seems fine to me. I would move that we confirm her.
Yeah, I think she also made some really good comments about the state workforce and how resilient they were and how much they stepped up to the plate and her desire to go forward with the classification system.
Right.
Did you know that, they asked for $125,000 to do the next step? The House took it out.
Mm.
What? How do they expect they're going to finance it?
I don't know, but they took it out. So I wrote a note to Jane and Adam this morning and said that our committee had heard the presentation and I thought we were in favor of moving forward with the reclassification system. It's so out of date that, anyway, Jane intends to put it back, just so you know.
What would the money be used for?
It's the next, I don't remember now exactly what the next steps were, but they have this whole timeline of what the next steps are in terms of the reclassification system.
Right.
And I don't remember the next steps.
Okay.
We do have it. It's on probably on our website on those
Sure.
slides that were given to us. So,
Okay.
but I don't think you have to talk about that because Jane will in the
No.
budget.
No.
Just talk about how they're moving forward with it. if you
Right.
want.
Right. Reclassifying.
Mhm.
We have how many thousands do we have right now?
1,800 classes.
Pretty
And-
amazing. It's almost like one for every 2 people.
Yeah.
They're hoping to get it down to 1,100 or 1,200. It's not like they're hoping to get it down to 3.
I know, and they could probably even get it down below that. New Jersey, I think they said, has something like 80,000 employees and they have 700 classifications or something like that. Just, anyway. Okay. So do you want to call the roll on Beth Vestigi?
Sure. Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Ram, yes, Senator White.
Yes.
And we are voting to advance Beth Vestigi to the full Senate for confirmation.
And before we move to Adam and then John Quinn, Keisha, you haven't been here when we've done these before, but usually the way they happen is we send them up. They appear on the end of the last page of the calendar.
Okay.
And the ones that are underlined have to be reported on. And as far as I know, we haven't gotten any non-underlined people yet at all. I mean, that's like boards and commissions and stuff. And then
Okay.
usually what happens is on a Friday, I will make arrangements with the pro tem and just ask for us to take up the confirmations. So you should be ready.
By next Friday.
By next Friday. Got
And
it.
it may not happen next Friday. It
Okay.
depends entirely on the schedule and how busy we are, whether they take them up or not.
Are we like working faster than other, are we going to start seeing a lot of these, or are we moving more quickly than other?
I have no idea because I don't know if other committees have received.
Well, you know about judiciary. Have you done any of your appointments in judiciary?
I don't know if we've even gotten any. Who would we get?
Well, check with Peggy. Peggy will tell you if you've gotten some. You just may
If I
not.
can interject, all of the committees have gotten their appointees. I don't know if they've voted on them, but they have gotten them.
Yeah,
I don't-
we dealt with ours in Senate Economic Development, and we need to. So
I don't think judiciary gets any because the judiciary is a separate branch. We confirm judges when they're first appointed.
well, you might check with Peg anyway, just to make sure. Do you want me to? Are we ready to chat about Adam? Or are we still?
Yeah,
voting?
just reminding people to be ready potentially on Friday
Right. Next.
or any Friday thereafter.
Right.
Okay,
Keep it in your desk drawer, as they.
I know.
Oh Lordy. Okay, Adam. Adam's enthusiasm for his job, it always is palpable, and I appreciate, because I also appreciate the fact that he is a legislator and he can appreciate what the process we have to go through to do the budget, and he now is appreciating his process. And I think that's so valuable, actually, for the legislature to have a former legislator in that capacity. I also appreciate that, one of his biggest, he's met in talking about, we talked about a lot of things, but retention was his biggest problem last time. And now all his hires have stuck and stayed. I think he's solved a couple of his problems, the challenges that he had before. I think he seems to be doing a terrific job. We don't have any way of going out into the world and getting outside opinions about these people, but my impression is that he really enjoys his job. He seems to be growing in his job. And he seems to be doing a good job, and he keeps learning on the job. And I love the fact that he shares that he's learning things all the time. And he talked about the lessons learned, that there's so many different ways to achieve the same goals and the same results, and that we need to sort of begin to look at state government and some of the things we've just assumed and taken for granted, and have to relook at them. I appreciate his honesty in talking about human services is the biggest challenge in his budget as he builds the budget. I'm impressed by Adam. I think Adam continues to do a good job and serves Vermont well. And I think he enjoys serving Vermont in this new capacity. And so I would support our advancing his confirmation.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
No, I like him a lot.
Yeah. And his enjoyment of the mix of finance and public policy is, well, I think that's great. That he enjoys it.
Just to
Okay.
give Adam a hard time, I've never personally experienced his excitement as palpable. I feel like he's so understated.
Oh,
But I
really?
do love Adam as someone who served on committee with him as well.
Did you experience that a little bit from him in his testimony the other day, last week?
I feel like he has an interesting way of sort of expressing his passion for things. I feel like it's kind of muted, but it's clear. It's clear. He's so hardworking. I'm just giving him a hard time because I can, but I've never thought of him as having palpable
I
excitement.
think palpable is in the eye of the beholder.
I had to sit across from him for 6 years.
I know.
6 years? Yeah, 4 or 6 years. And for me, that was palpable compared to times that occasion I've seen him.
We love Adam. He's good at what he does.
Okay,
And I think he's serving Vermont nicely. So I really am proud of him.
you want to move that we confirm him?
I did.
Oh, you did. I didn't hear that. Sorry.
I'll say it again. I move that we confirm Adam Gresham to the job of Director of Finance for the state of Vermont.
Okay. Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Rom, yes, Senator White,
Yes.
and we are advancing Adam Gresham for confirmation by the Senate on a vote of 5-0-0.
Okay, John Quinn.
Yeah, so I feel like, how am I supposed to follow Allison's kind of Oprah-like interview that she had with Adam Gresham?
Maybe John is palpable.
I know, right? I don't know if John will be as warm and fuzzy to sort of give me that opportunity, but I guess I would just say I came into that discussion with him or Q&A session as his biggest critic and someone who is really looking to hear answers, about what his direction was, the modernization efforts that are underway, how he works with different agencies and departments to move them forward, and learned a lot and was very impressed with his answers. And so I find it to be a good match to sort of be one who hopes to keep a watchful eye on his work and the projects and how they move forward, but really respecting his competency at this point and what in his follow-up, and looking at some of the websites that were his favorite around the country. I think I also appreciated his focus on cybersecurity, which is something that we can lose track of, but we would know if it was going wrong. And so, that was really valuable to hear more about and know how much of a underlying passion that is for him.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I was impressed with, Go
No, I
ahead.
was going to say cybersecurity has been something he's been interested in from the beginning, and it's been a very big interest of his.
I have seen him grow a lot since he was first appointed and we first confirmed him. So,
Yeah, he has.
okay.
So I have recorded all of these. I missed who is reporting Beth Fastigi.
I am.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sure.
I will forward these to you, Keisha.
Thank you, Gail.
All right. Did you move that we confirm him?
I move that we confirm John Quinn as Secretary of the Agency of Digital Services.
Okay.
Okay, Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Rom, yes, Senator White,
Yes.
and we are advancing John Quinn for consideration by the Senate on a vote of 5-0-0.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I think that, yeah, I don't know if other committees, what they've done, but I thought it was important for us to do it and just remove.
So
I did make a note here that sometime next year, we really need to have a conversation, and I think it's our committee that should lead this conversation about what Senate confirmations mean
yeah,
in the long run and how we do that. So,
is it just 4?
yeah.
Hmm.
It was just those 4.
So the one that you might have is the Commissioner of Public Safety in judiciary.
No, that comes here.
So why do we not have that?
I'm pretty sure that comes here. The one that might go to judiciary would be corrections. No, that goes to institutions. I don't know.
I don't know
why-
why. They may come up at different times, Allison, or he may just not have done it yet.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just puzzling.
well, I don't know. We'll just wait and see who we get and when we take them up.
Okay.
Okay. So the committee, we are, I was hoping that we would have two things. We heard about the issue with the school board vacancy appointments before. So we had that conversation, and then we talked about the possibility of, if we come to any kind of a decision, of adding it to H-154, if there's anything we want to do. So I had asked Senate Education to weigh in on it, to let us know what their feeling was and how they would approach this. And we also asked the School Board Association to weigh in, and they were not able to come today. So I don't know that we have anything today that we can do, unless the committee has had other thoughts about where we might go. I don't know yet in my own mind whether we should even take it up, if we should just leave the statute the way it is, if we should recommend that it be done by the select board. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other. So, Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I know Ken and Todd have both joined us.
Mhm.
If they could give us an update as to what's happened, because I think there was a special meeting that took place in the interim since we talked about it last.
Mhm.
So they could bring us up to date, first of all, and then tell us whether we need to do anything right now in terms of attaching this to a already existing bill. Because if we don't, there's probably, well, we could go looking for another vehicle, but I'm not sure we're going to find anything this year. So I don't know who wants to go first, but
I'll be glad to take it unless you want to go, Todd. Okay. Well, let's see. We testified, Todd and I and Lynn Edmonds and Robbie Congdon testified on March 19th to this committee. On the 22nd, the Clarendon Select Board had a regular meeting. Robbie reported out on the discussion we had here. And the Select Board decided to call for a special election. So the people of Clarendon would have a vote in the matter. So the timeline's a little bit funky, I guess would be an old white guy word I would use here. But the school board, Mill River School Board, was set to interview people on April 6th, this past Tuesday, and appoint somebody the 7th, last night. Well, the select board's timeline for the special election in May put the people had to put their petitions or their consent of candidates, they don't need signatures or anything, in by Monday, the 5th. So it was a day before the interviews and 2 days before. So basically, they called for a special election before they knew what the Mill River Board was going to do. But that it is what it is. The Mill River Board appointed a woman from Clarendon last night, and it all went pretty well, I thought. But that person is only going to be in that seat for 40 days, and unless she gets reelected. So the same two people that approached the Mill River Board are also on the ballot to be elected by the people May 18th. So I got a communication from Adrian Raymond, the chair of the Mill River Board, a little over an hour ago. And she said, I've been communicating with the chair of the select board, Mike Klopshin, the chair of the Clarendon Select Board. And it's all been collegial and very collaborative is the word she used. And no hard feelings. Everybody knows they're doing their own legal obligations. There was actually a letter sent asking the Clarendon board asked the Mill River board not to fill the vacancy. And they said, well, we can't do that. It's the law. And so they did fill the vacancy. And Mike and Adrian both agreed that this probably wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't so far out. The vacancy occurred right after town meeting. So it's going to be a whole year that this person, if it was a couple months or a few weeks, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today. So Adrian points out that seems to me, I'll read what she wrote here. Seems to me the law works as intended. The board filled the vacancy quickly. The town is represented. If the select board or the voters don't like the choice, they can warn an election. And I guess that timeline was a little, I think they jumped the gun a little bit calling for the special election, but that's my opinion. It's done. It's a done deal now. So she said, Adrian says all's good. You know, there's so my opinion is this is people are looking for a solution to a problem that does not exist. In any situation you care to name, any that I can think of, any governance structure of school boards or vacancy on a select board, the people of the town involved always have the last say. They can always petition for a special election. So town school district fills a vacancy. The people in that town don't like it. They petition the town school district board. Unified Union District School Board has a vacancy. They fill the vacancy. The select board or the people of that town represented don't like it. They call for a special election and so on. Same with the select board. There's a vacancy on the select board. The select board fills their own vacancy. If the people don't like it, they can call for a special election. So that is a long-winded response to, I think the only thing that needs to happen is make 16 VSA, what is it, 706L B2, whatever, the one piece of school board vacancy law that keeps sunsetting for some reason. Make it permanent, as long as, as permanent as a law can be. But right now it's sunsetted after 1 year, then it's sunsetted after 2, and then 2 again. It keeps sunsetting. It seems to be working pretty well, and the other part of the law dates back 16 years, so that's been working well. We had a little hiccup here, but again, solution looking for a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Todd? You are muted.
My apologies. I have too many screens open. I think in general, Ken's description was fairly accurate. There were some tensions in the discussion prior to the vote regarding whether or not the school board members should defer to only the Clarendon school board representatives. This kind of comes back to one of the principal points that we discussed at the last meeting that you folks welcomed us into, and that being the constitutional roots of the problem. If we trace back to the Constitution is very clear, the state Constitution that is, that the voters of the town affected really should have the primary say. And that tension did show up in the board meeting last night, the school board meeting. Some of the elected school board members did defer to the Clarendon school board members, others did not. And therein, I think, lies the problem. To compound that particular problem, in the case of Mill River Union School District, we had an additional wrinkle in that the bylaws actually point back to the way things, I guess, used to be done in terms of an appointment being made by the select board of the town affected. So there was confusion there. That didn't really play too heavily into the discussion last night. But my takeaway on this is that all laws in the state theoretically should derive from the Constitution. And with that thought in mind, I believe it's Chapter 1, Article 8, which is very specific in its requirements to keep that linkage between the original voter and the choice of an appointment. So I do think that there's still some confusion as to really what is the proper course. If I had my say, I would prefer to see the select board of the town affected retain that control until a special election is called for. It just seems to me to make the most sense. Otherwise, we get into this situation of, who has the proper authority? Is it right, for example, for a representative from Shrewsbury to have say over a replacement for the neighboring town of Clarendon? I would suggest no. And I'm a Shrewsbury resident. So I understand where Ken's coming from. Fortunately, everything turned out reasonably well, but it might not have. I mean, there was definitely some underlying tensions there, some confusion. And I think the law kind of, as it currently is written, plays into that confusion. So I guess that's my 50 cents. Thank you for listening.
So could I just ask you, what article did you refer to in the Constitution?
Oh, bear with me. I'll look it up.
You had a reference to it.
Yes, it's Chapter 1, Article 8. And I'll quote it again, that all elections ought to be free and without corruption, and that all voters having a sufficient, evident common interest with and attachment to the community, so the key word is community here, have a right to elect officers and be elected into office agreeably to the regulations made in this Constitution. And I would gently add to that that's in the section listed as inalienable rights of the residents of the state. So there's a direct connection there between the community and their right to elect representatives of their choosing. So it seems to me that as it's currently written, the statute 16 VSA 706L bypasses that constitutionally protected connection between the original voter and a choice of replacement in the event of a vacancy.
Okay, Ken?
Yeah, Todd brings up a good point for discussion here. We've heard this a lot with this discussion. Admittedly, the unified union governance structure is a different beast than most because you have multiple towns, but those towns don't have individual school districts. So we hear quite often that Clarendon doesn't want Wallingford telling them who's going to represent Clarendon, and so on and so on. And it's that point has merit, but we don't hear, it occurred to me just recently, we don't hear the flip side of that. And I hope I can articulate this. It sounds pretty good in my head, so I'm going to try and articulate it for, what about the other way? We've got people from Wallingford and Shrewsbury and Timoth on the board, and they're representing their towns and their children. And now Clarendon, the select board, when we're just talking vacancy, I'm not talking about elections, general normal elections, but the select board can then put somebody on the school board if this law were to change. And the other towns would say, well, this person doesn't have the best interests of the students in mind. So now the Clarendon Select Board, or whatever select board, is imposing their 5 people or 3 people belief onto the school district. And now the school district is like, what are we going to do now? We got this person thrust upon us. So it's a two-way street. Again, this does not have to be adversarial. As the law stands right now, the people always have the final say. There'll be a little lag time to warn a special election, but the Mill River Board, or any school board I've ever been associated with, and I was president of the VSBA board for a while, I've been around the block a couple times, they're going to appoint somebody that's going to upset the town, their representative, or upset the other members of the board. They're going to find somebody who is interested in bettering the education opportunities for our children and keeping an eye on the bottom line for the taxpayers. So again, solution looking for a problem, in my opinion. I think it's working fine the way it is. It just needs to be made permanent. Thank you.
So I'm going to make a couple comments and then I'll ask committee members if they have any feelings. First of all, I'm not sure that your reference to the Constitution, there's no definition of community. And so it is the community in this it refers to state elections, actually. I believe it's under the section called Free Men and Free Women, and it refers to the statewide elections, that they need to have an attachment to the community, meaning the state. So that is a different interpretation, but I'm not going to argue about that. I just think that That is the way I interpret that, given what we've heard from our constitutional scholars around the elections. And then secondly, I think that, first of all, we would not get rid of this sunset. That would be the Education Committee that would take that up. And my third comment is that since we don't have a pressing need right now, I would rather punt this to the Education Committee and let them deal with this issue and then come to us for suggestions if they want to involve the municipalities. I don't think we need to do this right now. That's my bottom line. So can I just ask other committee members if they have, where they are with this? Senator Polina?
I agree. I think that they've worked it out for now, and I think if we were going to take action on this, make a determination, we'd have to have a lot of conversation before we did that. So we're certainly not ready to do it now, and I don't think we're necessarily ever going to have to do it. But so I would say, giving it to Education Committee, let them decide if they want to move forward with it. Sorry, I'm so congested. I don't know if you can sound okay, but
Is this from your shot?
no. In fact, we got my shots, and that was fine. We went to visit our grandchildren, and everybody's got their shots and all that, and my granddaughter gave me a cold.
You know what my doctor said when my kids started in kindergarten? He said, kindergarten is a cesspool.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Senator Collmore, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, we haven't heard from Robert Congdon yet, but as long as it seems the problem has been solved for the moment, I guess I will agree with the chair that we can sort of take a step backwards and just let things go the way they are. But I would like to hear from Congdon.
Yeah, I see he has joined us.
You want
So,
to pause before the rest of us respond?
yeah, let's hear first from Robert.
Well, senators, thank you for having me. I apologize. My camera for some reason is not working today, so I do hope you can hear me at least.
We can.
Having a little bit of technical difficulties over here, but I'm not sure exactly what got said before I did jump on. I caught the tail end of Ken's comments and a couple seconds of Mr. Fillmore's. I would say at this point in Clarendon did take action to ensure that a special election was heard. We felt that was very important to maintain, the charge of this committee, even at the end of the last committee meeting, was to ensure that Clarendon's voice was not diminished in this process. So the select board unanimously made that decision. It was not split at all. Everybody felt that it was very important to give the townspeople a vote. And obviously, as long as that part of the law remains the same, any town that faced this issue would have that option if they so chose to go that way. I do continue to see the problem and while I respectfully disagree with Ken, the fact is that where I fall on it is a municipal vacancy, and in this case, I full-heartedly believe that a school district vacancy is a municipal vacancy, and that person is to represent the town that elects them. That's why I would continue to stand on that person should be appointed by the municipal elected officials, which is the select board. I know Ken's thoughts, I hear Ken's thoughts, but the other members of that board were not elected by our townspeople and may have different views than our townspeople. So the way to ensure that our townspeople's voice is protected and maintained is to make sure that it is representatives of the town that appoint that person. That's quite simply where I come down on the issue. Again, I respectfully disagree. I just feel that, we as a community, we as communities across the state, we all know that towns differ in opinions on certain issues. So in this sense, as a select board member in Clarendon, I was voted in to represent the Clarendon's town people. Those school board members that would be making that appointment were not elected in. There was a couple of them that were, but the rest of them are from neighboring towns. And that's the thrust of the issue. That's where it comes down. And the argument that, well, that person may not be in the best interest of the school board, we see that across the state in any election. A person could get elected to the select board next March that the select board wouldn't pick, but the people pick. That's the whole point of our democracy. So that's where I land on the issue, quite simply. And again, as an update, we did schedule a special election coming up in about actually it's a month, just over a month from this week. And the candidate consent forms were already due. They are already in, the ballot is set. And our clerk is working very closely now with all the process to make sure that everything gets done and the people's voice can be heard. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Robert.
So could we hear from Senator Rahm and Senator Clarkson about, so all we're talking about now is whether we want to continue to look at this issue more and take it up, or whether we want to pass 154 as it is and have this issue addressed by the Education Committee. So that's our decision right now, is do we want to continue, or do we want to give this to the Education Committee and have them weigh in on it? So Senator Rahm?
Well, I don't know how the Education Committee feels about that. So, obviously that's some consideration, but I just feel every time I hear someone speak less qualified to make a statewide decision that would impact other communities from a situation that feels almost intractable from different perspectives, just from hearing people on some different sides. Now, I'm really grateful that they seem to have worked out a reasonable solution now, but I don't think we should impact this right now and have reverberations for other communities.
Yeah, and I don't know how the Education Committee feels about it either, but if it remains an issue about school board vacancies, it is probably more rightly addressed by the Education Committee than by us. We heard this and we thought, if there is something here that we could do, this is a vehicle for it, H-154. That's why we're looking at this. Whether the Education Committee ever takes it up or not is their prerogative. And so, Senator Clarkson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would agree. I think that from this particular circumstance, we're supposed to not make laws based on one particular circumstance. So I would agree that I think this belongs in the bailiwick of the Senate Education Committee. That being said, if we give this issue to them and they move on it quickly, they could also do it as an amendment to 154 if they thought it was appropriate, and we would agree. So, I mean, that's a possibility too. And if not, they could also address it. They have another year to address it in the course of this biennium. So I absolutely think this is something the Education Committee needs to weigh.
Yeah, no, and I've asked them to address it and get back to us, and have heard nothing. So whether they have any interest in addressing it or not, I don't know. But if they do, and they want to make a change, they can do that. But they could also have it on a separate bill. They could do a whole separate bill. If they want to get rid of the sunset, they can. Those are decisions that the Education Committee needs to make. Yes, Ken?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to just clarify about the sunset thing. When I said it was my opinion to just get rid of the sunset, make it permanent, I did not mean this group here. I meant in general, it needs to happen in the legislative process somehow. I also wanted to apologize, kind of a la Senator Polina last time we met, that when you came back from break, he had said something that he thought maybe was a little inappropriate. And I started out, I described the word funky that I used at the beginning of this with a phrase describing myself that I used when I was writing a piece on equality in a earlier last year there somewhere, where I was saying, you know, it was actually given to me by my daughter, says they don't need old white guys speaking for them. And I said, well, we can help them build the platform to speak from. So I hope I didn't offend anybody when I said that, describing myself. And because I am actually, but and also I'm wondering if we will be included, the four of us, if it goes to Senate Ed or wherever, will we get some sort of notification, or do we need to keep our eye on agendas?
Well, you're going to have to bring it to Senate Ed.
Oh,
I mean,
you aren't moving it. Oh,
We're not moving.
okay.
If we vote on this bill today, we vote on this bill, and then that's the end of it. Whatever Senate Education decides to do with the issue of vacancies is up to them. And if you have concerns about how they should be addressing this, and I know there's a difference of opinion here, but Robert, if you have a concern that it should be the select board that does this and would ask them to make a change, you should bring that to the education committee. Because we've asked them to weigh in on it in terms of this bill, but they have not. And so now the issue with our committee would be over. And if
Understood.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. Senator Collmore?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make it absolutely clear that you've already solved the problem right now, that we don't need to do anything, and that we can vote out 154 with clear consciences, knowing that you've already solved the problem for now. And whatever happens down the road, it would be up to your group, loosely put, as the chair indicated, to get a hold of Brian Campion, who is the chair of the Senate Ed Committee, and say, okay, for now it's taken care of. There's a special one coming up, but in the future, this is probably something we need to look at.
Yep.
That's all.
I expect we'll all be singing Kumbaya around the campfire any day now.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
All right. So committee,
Thank you,
given
Becky.
that, and I thank you all very much for coming again today and weighing in on this. I think this has been an interesting conversation, and I'll be curious to see if education does anything with it and what they do. So thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Committee,
very much.
can we vote on H-154? If you remember, H-154 simply says that if a select board member refuses to take their seat within a certain amount of time, then they can appoint somebody, and it comes directly from an issue in Wilmington where the person was elected and refused to take the seat, but there really is nothing they can do about it because he didn't take the oath and then resign. He just refused to take it. So, Senator Collmore?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would now move that the committee votes out H-154 as it came over from the House with no amendments favorably.
And if anybody has any questions about it related to it, Tucker is here and can answer them if you don't remember.
So
Okay.
if someone doesn't take their seat, this allows the rest of the body to appoint someone.
If somebody, the statutes are very clear that if somebody resigns,
Mhm.
Or dies.
then they can be, their seat can be filled. But there's nothing addressing if they refuse to take the seat in the first place.
Hmm.
So somebody was drafted,
Right.
they
And
were elected, and the person refused to take the oath and refused to take the seat. And so they're operating with two people.
and
So, sorry,
Senator Paulina?
So they would be appointed by the remaining members of the body. I'm just curious though, this idea of doing special elections, that doesn't happen, Tucker? I mean,
Not in this context. No. So the vacancy statutes for municipal offices state that the select board shall appoint the replacement.
okay, thanks.
Yeah. I also, if you have questions about how special elections may interact with any of this, Amarin should likely answer that question, but I was confused by the previous testimony about the special elections because
That's a school
yeah.
board.
Okay.
Yeah, we were confused by that too.
We're done with that. But yeah, currently select board, the remaining members appoint somebody if they resign.
So if there were like 3 members and 2 of them got sick or went away, the one remaining member would appoint 2 people to work with them?
So there are actually different replacement requirements when there is not a sufficient number of members to actually take any action. And that was a situation that recently arose, I believe, in the city of Vergennes, where there were not enough members of the legislative body to take action or to fill any of the vacancies. And they did have to hold a special election to fill council seats because both in theory and in statute, the legislative body has to actually be able to vote in a quorum or majority to take any action whatsoever,
Right.
including filling those vacancies.
Yep. Thanks.
Which probably doesn't happen all that often. But yep.
Is this
Anybody else? Yeah, Keisha?
is this kind of a standard, but if a town decided, you know what, we don't want to do it that way. We want to have an election. Could they depart from this? Is there flexibility for them to do that?
There is the ultimate flexibility in that this is a Dillon's rule state, and the General Assembly can give an individual municipality whatever they ask for as long as it doesn't violate the Constitution. So if a municipality wanted to have a separate procedure unique to their community for replacing an officer when there's a deemed vacancy, they could go through the charter amendment process and ask for that authority.
So this would be the default, but they could ask for.
Well, they could do a charter
Okay.
and ask for it, but the fact that we tell them exactly what they can do and how they can do it and when they can do it, this is what they would have to do if.
Right.
Yeah. And this just, remember, all this does is addresses when somebody refuses to take the office in the first place.
So I'm actually thinking of a recent scenario around this and someone feeling like they were experiencing so much racial harassment during the election that they almost didn't take their seat. So,
but some of us worked really hard to make sure she said yes.
Yes. So I am running that scenario in my head, and it's a unique one, but it's the one that has come up most recently in my experience with this. So, it
would be the same thing.
They would
just appoint someone to fill that seat.
Right. I guess I'm just thinking about it for a second, what that says, or if there's something else germane to this bill that would make us want to hold on to it and consider the reason someone would not want to take a seat.
I don't think it has anything to do with the reason why they don't take a seat. I believe that we need to give them the option to fill that seat, because what's happening in Wilmington is they're operating with 2 people.
Right.
Yeah.
And they need to have the ability to appoint somebody. And
Right.
if somebody refuses to take their seat for whatever reason, the remaining members have to have the ability.
Right.
No,
I know. What if there's 4 people and 2 want to do one thing and 2 want to do another thing?
Well, but
then they have to work that out. However,
have to come to consensus.
that would happen with any other issue also on a select board. If you had 5 members and you had one person who wasn't at a meeting and 2 of them them wanted to do something and 2 of them wanted to do something else, it would happen in our committees. If somebody was absent and Brian and I wanted to do something and Allison and Anthony wanted to do something different and you weren't here. I mean, we can't cover every contingency. I think that we have to allow for there to be a process to put people in a seat.
Right. Right.
Did I make the motion again?
There's a motion on the floor.
Yep.
Yes.
I would call the question.
Okay.
Is there a reason we have to vote on this right now?
Well, I would like to get it. We have so many things.
Yeah, but
to
Todd
deal-
coming at us.
Yeah, we have so many things. I don't know why we would,
At us.
I can't think of a reason why we would not vote on it. I mean, if you can think of some circumstance that would say, no, we aren't going to allow the towns to do this.
Plus, in the situation you're thinking of, Senator Rahm, the person was going to not just not say anything to the board. She was going to say she did not want to serve. And so that would have opened a vacancy. This is
not unless she had taken her oath.
right. Exactly. Would have, yeah, whichever. But I mean, she'd have done what needed to be done. This is very unusual circumstance where somebody hasn't taken the oath and they have just totally chosen to sort of tie the hands of the select board by not functioning as a select board member in any capacity. I mean, it's almost a little, well, I won't say that.
So you're saying that situation would be different because she'd take the oath and resign?
If she took the oath and resigned, there's already provision for that. It already says that they appoint somebody. That's already the law.
Okay.
Yeah. This is poor John Gannon.
What do you mean, poor John Gannon?
He's on that select board.
Oh, no wonder we're doing this, Bill.
I mean, it just seems to me that we have to, because it could happen to some other town.
Oh, it could. I think it's a good reason to move to 5 select board members.
No, I think staying with 3 is you can't have factions when you have 3 people.
Oh, yes, you can.
Oh.
Factions. Anyway,
Okay, so there is a motion
question.
on there to accept to report this out favorably.
Right.
Senator Rahm, would you like to call the roll?
Okay. Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
myself, Senator Rahm, I suppose, yes. Senator White.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 5-0-0.
I will
somebody-
report it.
Okay, Senator Collmore will report. So just a question, Tucker. Was I right in my interpretation of the Constitution when I said that I thought that attachment to the community was not defined and in this context probably referred to the state?
Well, my ears definitely turned up when I heard that reference to Article 8, because Article 8 doesn't define community. And as
Right.
far as I know, there's only been maybe 9 or 10 Supreme Court cases in Vermont that have even looked at that article, and none of them have looked at what community means. But the presumption is that it is the state. It's about the assembly.
Yeah.
And, the counter argument to what was being discussed earlier is that the community in this case is not the individual municipalities in the district. The community is the district, right? That's who the voters are attached to in this instance. Anyway.
Oh, interesting.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think you're right. That's what I thought. Okay. All right.
But while we're on this, I'm looking at it. Where is the definitions section?
Definition of what?
Community.
There is no, you don't have a definition section in the
No,
Constitution.
I was just wondering when you said, I mean, I was wondering, well, where is everything else defined?
I've looked for the table of contents for that bloody thing forever and I never could find it.
What,
It's
Article 8?
Joking. I'm
Article 8.
Oh.
Article 8.
He's looking for definitions too.
No, there aren't definitions. Think you have to look at the definition within the context of where it's placed in the Constitution and where, and I mean, there's no definition of resident. There's no definition of militia. There's no definition of private property. I mean, you don't.
There's a
have
definition of
definitions
voter.
in the
There
Constitution.
isn't- Yeah, there's a definition.
Voter? Of what?
Voter. There are express voter qualifications. So everywhere where the term voter appears in the
Yes.
Constitution, you know exactly what a voter is.
Right, but it's not in a definition section.
Right, I've been looking for the definition section and it doesn't exist.
I don't think I've ever seen definition section in any constitution.
I know, I'm just joking, but
Okay.
it's interesting because, well,
So, okay. So committee,
Yes.
are we,
Yes.
are we
I
walking
think we're
into?
I,
Damien.
Oh.
Before Tucker leaves, we have another subject that I think, I have a meeting in about 20 minutes, so I've got to scoot.
I do too, but what else did we have on here for today?
Oh, the thing about the
Something.
transportation people?
Something is happening. Okay.
But Tucker, there are other people coming. Look, Mark Anderson's back. Damien's back.
Oh,
Brett Meyer.
Madam Chair,
Oh.
you requested a walkthrough of S85.
oh, okay, all right, let's do it.
Okay, I'll email you, Tucker.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, we didn't have to prolong that conversation. I completely forgot. I hate this, trying to schedule things on Zoom. I hate it. But anyway, okay. Thank you. Damien, would you like to walk us through S85?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I think this should be up on your website. If I remember right, this committee does not like it when I share my screen, so I won't do that.
Right, and it is on our website.
So the bill from a textual standpoint is a very simple bill. And I will let the advocates tell you whether it's a simple bill from a policy standpoint. But if you look on page 1 of the bill, lines 19 and 20, what this would provide is that the transportation deputies in the sheriff's departments would be designated as state employees within the classified service as defined pursuant to 3 VSA 311. Currently, those transportation deputies are not designated as state employees, although they are paid by the state of Vermont with their salary at least ostensibly approved by the governor. So this would change them to individuals who are paid by the state of Vermont and employed by the state of Vermont, although their assignment as far as which county they were serving in would be determined by the executive committee of the Vermont Sheriff's Association and the executive director of the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs. The reason why that change is significant is because classified employees are allowed to collectively bargain under the State Employees Labor Relations Act. You'll remember a couple of years ago, we had a similar proposal which basically created a new bargaining unit for employees of the state's attorney's offices statewide. The way this bill is different is it simply designates these employees as these transportation deputies as classified state employees, which means they could potentially be integrated into an existing statewide bargaining unit without the need for us to designate a separate bargaining unit. And that's where I'll leave off. That's the walkthrough. Do you have any questions for me before you get to your witnesses?
Nope. Anybody else?
Okay.
Anybody have a question? Okay. So I think that first, I think we'll go to Steve Howard and then to Annie Noonan. And then Mark and Roger are here, sheriffs are here too. And my, okay, let's just go. Steve, do you want to give us a quick rundown of why this is important and why we're doing it this way?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Steve Howard, I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont State Employees Association. And I just want to point to the committees, make a point to the committee that I think I just barely sent to Gail a letter from the transport deputies. There are currently 21 transport deputies with 4 vacancies, and all of the current transport deputies have signed on to a letter in support of this legislation. So there's widespread support among the transport deputies for this change. And the reason for it is that the state of Vermont currently, the VSEA currently negotiates with the state of Vermont for pay and benefits that our members receive and that are given to these deputies. So for instance, they receive the same COLA that we would receive, that our members would receive, but they have no voice in the process that determines how we get to that conclusion in the collective bargaining process. And they would like to participate in that voice, in that process. So this is very simple. It just simply says that we're going to allow them to be for the issues that the state has interest in, their pay, their benefits, all of those matters. They would be, like any other state employee, allowed to collectively bargain. And they would be allowed to be, they would be added to an existing bargaining unit, in this case, probably the non-management unit where the rest of law enforcement is. You know, our DMV police officers, our fish and game wardens are all in the non-management unit, with the exception of our state police lieutenants who are in the supervisory unit. So this bill would work very much like the employees that we represent in the state treasurer's office or the Secretary of State's office or any of the statewide elected officials, where we're bargaining with the governor for the employees who are supervised by these statewide elected officials. So there's sort of like a joint employment arrangement where they would be supervised by the sheriffs, but they would be bargained, their benefits would be bargained with the governor, just like, you know, an admin assistant in the treasurer's office, or an investigator in the attorney general's office, something like that. So it's very similar to that. As I said, I think I've already said that just to make it clear who we're talking about, the transport deputies are the deputies who are paid by the state. They are in the state retirement system. They're in the state healthcare system. These are the folks who transport those who are accused or who are convicted between the facilities that they're held at and court dates. They also transport folks who are suffering from mental illness and are moving throughout the system in the state, and are often called upon to transport youth throughout the state to various facilities. And so I'm also joined by Lieutenant Mark Poulin, Madam Chair, and if it's okay with you, I don't know if this would be appropriate time or you want to talk to him later, but he is available to tell you why the transport deputies want to, why there's so much widespread support from the transport deputies for this change.
I think what I'll do is jump to Annie Noonan first from the state's attorneys and sheriff's department, because I think that there are some issues around the way it's constructed, and I'd like to hear what those are and where we would go with it. Annie? Okay. And you are muted, Annie. There you go.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, senators. Thank you for letting me sub in for John, who is homesick with his COVID shot. For the record, Annie Noonan, Director of Labor Relations and Operations for the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs. I want to start out by saying that neither the department nor the sheriffs are speaking out against employees' rights to self-determine whether they choose to be unionized. The concerns that I will raise through this discussion today will become evident as to what some of those issues are. And also, for the record, I want to point out that in 2017, this department supported S-131, which allowed the employees in the state's attorney's offices to unionize, to unionize, and then we successfully bargained a first contract with those employees. So this is the issues that I'm going to raise, I hope, are heard from the perspective of which they are offered, insofar as the fact that there's both the sheriffs and I have spoken at length, and there are some issues, and I will go through them. So as you know, the construction of the 14 elected sheriff's offices is a mix of programs and funding, and it essentially replicates a public-private ventureship. The state of Vermont General Fund pays for the salaries and benefits of the 14 elected sheriffs and for the 25 state transport deputies. In addition, the department pays for the mileage and the per diem deputies who may work in place of a transport deputy. Those individuals work for the sheriff's office when those people perform transports. And our folks do transport from the correctional facilities to court or on extraditions, and they do some other duties, which we can get into at a later date, but it's not relevant to today. We also pay the state worker comp premiums for the sheriffs and the transport deputies, and a portion of the audit work that is contracted for by the state auditor. S85 changes the status of the 25 state transport deputies to make them classified employees under Title III, Section 311. And in proposing the change, VSEA has been informed by VSEA has informed the department that they would then like to put this transport deputies under the existing non-management unit contract. So VSEA would need to petition the Vermont Labor Relations Board to include these employees through either a unit clarification process, which seeks to do so potentially without a representation election. The board could agree to that petition, or they could decline to do so without allowing the employees to decide. The board considers factors, including the self-determination rights of the employees, labor relations, and the protection of bargaining in the public sector. The VSEA could also seek to add the employees to accretion, whereby new employees whose work and interests are aligned with those in an existing bargaining unit can be added to the bargaining unit. So the board will be involved in this process. But in either situation, whether it's a unit clarification or an accretion, neither the State Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriff's Department, SAS, nor the sheriffs have participated in the contract provisions that would potentially cover the state transport deputies if they're incorporated into non-management or another bargaining unit. The department has not budgeted for these costs that could be associated with the change, and the sheriffs have also expressed concerns about the possible impact to their own budget, since they provide substantial in-kind support, including cars and uniforms and other equipment. And in addition, the sheriffs have raised a concern about their ability to exercise their authority to appoint a deputy under 24 Section 290. So for those issues, for the fact that we are concerned about, in essence, having to administer a budget under a contract that neither the department or the sheriffs have had any input into, how these would play out for these employees would be a problem. And I will just say that I think many folks have heard me talk about the fact that the first contract is usually, those expenses are such that we worry about the absorption. I spent over an hour and a half this morning on the phone with our budget analyst talking about the first contract impact to our budget this year. And, I look at what that potentially is, and it's close to $400,000 that we will be absorbing currently in our FY21 budget, and trying to make my case for additional money in the Pay Act to cover the cost of that first contract. So these issues aren't simple from a financial perspective. And, what that means for the department is just starting with a hole. And I think that we look at the sheriff's budget for next year, and we have had to cut $160,000 out of mileage and per diem costs. So moving people into this without any ability for the department to budget, and becomes problematic without the sheriff's issues being addressed in terms of their statutory right to appoint people and to take those appointments back can become a problem. But I'm just laying those issues out because I'm living it right now with the unfunded mandates of the first contract that was collaboratively negotiated, but for which we don't have money to absorb those costs. So those are some of the concerns that I lay out from the department's perspective, and we'll leave it for. I know you've got a lot of other people behind me to testify, so I just will put those issues out there.
I'm going to, I know that a number of us have another meeting at 5 o'clock. And so I really apologize to people. What I'm going to try and do is, in my own mind, wrap myself around the issues here. When we had this state's attorney's employees unionize, the negotiations that they did were with the Department of State's attorneys and sheriffs.
Correct.
Because that's their employer. So what we're doing here is we're saying that the employer, who is the sheriffs and the Department of Sheriffs and State's attorneys, will have no negotiating ability here at all. They will be in another unit, another bargaining unit, and the actual employer won't have any ability to negotiate. Is that the way I'm reading this?
It's a possibility. Depends on how, if the SEA if this bill passes and VSEA goes to the labor board and receives a unit clarification go ahead or accretion go ahead quickly, and they put them in non-management, I presume VSEA's position would be, and I'm sure what they've discussed with the transport deputies, is that they would have certain benefits that would be under the non-management bargaining unit. And so in that existing contract, that is correct, that the department and the sheriffs have had no input into provisions that would potentially impact those employees. Now, in future negotiations, we could request to participate with the Department of Human Resources to have them present proposals to us, or vice versa. But again, it's part of the larger bargaining unit, and we would be one small group of managers who would have interest in what happens to a bargaining unit that covers over 45 or 4,800 employees. So it is certainly possible, that we could be talking with DHR in the future for input into the contract. If in fact this happens so that the employees are just absorbed under non-management soon, then, and those benefits accrue to those employees, then that is correct, Senator. It would be benefits and provisions for which the sheriffs have had and the department has had no input.
Okay, I did see that Steve's hand was up and he was shaking his head. Senator Clarkson, did you have?
No, I'm having to depart, but I look forward to the continuation of this conversation.
So what I'm going to suggest is that given the fact that a couple of us have another meeting we have to be at, and I, again, sincerely apologize. I'm so sorry. I just spaced this out. That we continue this conversation. And I will say pretty bluntly that I'm not sure that this will go anywhere this year. We are well past crossover, and we would have to get permission from the Rules Committee to even bring it out of our committee to get it on the floor. And even if we were to do that, the likelihood that the House would take it up with this little time remaining is pretty unclear. So what I'm going to suggest is that we set up another time where we can really look at this and see how we can work out the issues here and hear more from, because I know Steve had his hand up and Mark wanted to testify also, and hear from the sheriffs in addition. Does that make any sense, committee? Because I don't want us to try and rush through this. Okay, Senator Rahm, are you okay with that? Okay. So I will schedule this again, but I will say that it is highly unlikely that this would make it through the Rules Committee. I mean, the things that are going to make it through the Rules Committee are things that have some time constraints around them and are seen by the Rules Committee as needing to have action this year. So, but we'll set up some more testimony on it and try and figure out what those issues are and how they might be resolved. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, Senator.
Thank you again. I sincerely apologize. We'll see what I can screw up tomorrow.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, committee.
Thanks.